So you guys know me as a guy that made millions of dollars in the stock market, how I generate roughly $30,000 per month when I do stock options. But the purpose of this video right here, I'm gonna walk you through when I started out with $0 to my name to how I am right now with over $2 million in net worth. So I'm 30 years old right now. When I was 24 years old, I walked into my day job, and this was the day that everything clicked for me. I walked in, and one of my colleagues, I'm a cardiac cath lab technologist, so basically if you have a heart attack, I help the doctor put stents in your heart. So don't think that I made millions of dollars because I make a bunch of money. I made like $100,000 a year. So it's a good salary, but it's not enough to take you from zero to millions as fast as I have done it. So I walked in, and this guy was there begging for overtime, begging to work more, and he could honestly like barely walk. And I'm like, why is this dude who's 70 years old still sitting here begging for overtime? Like, doesn't he have a 401k? Doesn't he have a house that's paid off for money that's saved up? And I actually asked him that. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you asking for my call shifts, for my overtime and stuff like that? And he was like, I never saved. I never invested. I never set any money aside. I just figured I would work until I die. And at that moment in time, it clicked for me. It clicked that I want to do everything in my power to never be like that guy. So that's where I started my journey right there. So I was like, how do I invest my money the right way, a safe way, but a way that's going to get me to the multi-millionaire level, because I wanted to chase after financial freedom. I did not want to be 70 years old, working at my day job, begging for overtime, working for the man, as people call it. So that's where I started out at my day job. Now, when I started out, roughly 6 years ago, I had no money to my name. I had no money. I didn't know anything about investing, nothing about the stock market, but I had that fire under my butt now where it was like, I want to do everything in my power to not be like that guy. So I started out where the typical investor starts out. I went to YouTube, how to make money in the stock market. And then of course, most people land on those clickbait videos, how I made $1 million overnight with a call option. And then most people watch the video, they try to do it, then they lose all the money and they get wiped out. I went through that whole journey. I went through the journey of trying to make quick money, trying to make money overnight. It usually doesn't work. Yes, there's people that win the lottery, but there's millions of people that didn't win the lottery too. So just think about that before you go and make an investment. So I went through my phase of trying to get rich overnight, lost money. Then I went for the opposite approach where I went to my Warren Buffett kick. So Warren Buffett pretty much preaches buy companies at a good price with a durable competitive advantage and hold them for the long run and you'll do very well. Warren Buffett's strategy is a lot more boring than the initial strategy that I landed on, but there's a reason why Warren Buffett's worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and the person that had that YouTube video is honestly probably broke. So that kind of clicked for me a little bit right there. And then I started going on Google and I was typing in Warren Buffett top 10 books. So then once I started going through all of Warren Buffett's books, I would then figure out what other billionaires are reading. Because why would I not want to take information from the source of, hey, this was a good book, this really took me to the next level. So I want to consume that type of information. And I would say from the day that I talked to my colleague where he said he's broke, has no money, he has to work till he dies pretty much, I probably read in the next 12 months over 30 investing books. So I'm reading, almost 2 to 3 a month. And a lot of the books that I read, I don't like read them. I have an audiobook for it and I follow along on like 1.5 speed, but it's like 1.5 speed, you're able to get through so much more information in the same amount of time. You don't want to go too fast, obviously, because you can't retain the information. And it was all just like learning how the stock market actually works. I became obsessed with this idea that you can invest your money and you can have your money work for you. And eventually, once you get to a certain amount of money, like my target, my huge threshold was $1 million. I hit $1 million a couple years ago, but I knew that once I hit my first $1 million, that was a huge milestone for many reasons. Number one, because I proved to myself that it could be done. There's so many temptations along the way on your first $1 million. Like when you get your first 20,000 bucks, maybe you want to go on a vacation. Your first 50K, now I want to go pay cash for a brand new car. 100K, maybe I want to go, big down payment on a house. And then as you get more money, you realize that most of the other stuff doesn't matter. Your goal is going to be, once you get a little bit of money, you're going to say, okay, I have 100K invested in the stock market. What if that does 10% per year? So now, by doing nothing, I'm going to make roughly $10,000 every single year because 10% of 100K is 10,000 bucks. So then I was like, okay, if I could have 100K in there, why can't I have $1 million in the stock market? So I had to think bigger. I had to think of how I could scale from $100,000 to $1 million. And one of the super important things that really took me to the next level was I didn't think of how do I make my first $1 million. I thought of it as how do I make my first $10 million? Because when you think of trying to make your first $1 million as making $1 million, you're going to correlate that to trading time for money at your day job. But you can't trade enough time for money at your day job. Most people, unless you're like a surgeon or something, but you can't trade enough time for money at your day job to scale to $10 million. So you have to think bigger. And this is where I even put more time and energy into learning how the stock market works even more. And then I started to branch out into the real estate field. So in a little bit, I'm going to bring all this together, how I do stock options, and real estate, and why it's super important to have the whole package together. So I realized, yes, the day job is not the answer, but starting out, I have to trade time for money to get a little bit of money invested. But once I hit my first 100K, that's where I said, okay, I could do this. Let's scale another 900K. I know it sounds crazy, but I said, let's scale another $900,000 and get this to $1 million of net worth. So I continued to read the books, go to seminar, do courses. I can't tell you how many YouTubers courses I've done. I've probably been through at least 50 of them. And most people are gonna be like, dude, you went through 50 YouTubers courses, they're probably all junk. And it's like, some of them suck, but some of them are really good. But what if I learned one thing through those 50 different courses, one lesson in each one, but that one lesson was a game changer? That's 50 game changers that I now have in my tool chest right here, so that if a stock or a piece of real estate happens to be on sale or there's really any deal going on out there, I'm able to spot the deal. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, how can you find it? You can't just go read one book and watch one YouTube video and think you're like an informed investor. You have to consume a lot of information, and that's why audiobooks are really big for me. YouTube was really big for me. I learned a lot from YouTube, and the 1.5 speed was really big. Like, that saved me so much time. You know, if you're driving in your car to work, you can listen to something. Driving home, you can listen to something. There's a lot of free time in your day that you just realize isn't there, but it really is there. So now 2022 rolls around, and if you go look at any chart of the stock market in 2022, you will see that the stock market went down roughly 35% for the NASDAQ. So I was still working at my day job in 2022, but I knew that it was coming to an end. I knew that I was getting close to the point where I'm getting pretty good at the stock market, where I can invest my money, I could do stocks and stock options, to the point where the money I make in the stock market generates way more than I'll ever make at my day job. So 2022, when that dip happened, I can't tell you how many people at my day job were freaking out. The stock market's crashing. It's the next 2008. It's going to go down another 40%. Like, dude, the stock market's going down because the Fed is raising interest rates, because inflation's high, because the economy is strong. And I was kind of like, once inflation starts to trend back down, the Fed could then go cut rates. And when the rates go down, the stock market typically can go higher. So I'm like, right now is a really good time to buy things when they're on sale. And I like to talk about the stock market as a rubber band. The stock market usually goes up roughly 10% per year, but in 2022, the stock market was like a rubber band being stretched down. So when you stretch a rubber band down and I go and let it go, this corresponds to the stock price being stretched down. When you let it go, the stock market wants to fling back up and revert back to that 10% growth line. That's typically what the earnings of these companies grow at in NASDAQ or the S&P 500. So I knew that 2022 there were discounts out there. So I was buying calls, I was selling puts, I was building the base of my portfolio. I was working overtime like crazy, working 6-7 days a week, working graveyard shift, day shift, swing shift, all the shifts, because I knew that things were on sale, and I was basically like salivating out of the mouth. I'm like, dude, we need to get in the stock market right now, ASAP, and leverage ourselves to capitalize on this dip right here. So when 2023 and 2024 this year rolled around, that's where my net worth absolutely exploded. So 2022, my Charles Schwab account was $290,000. 2023, it was $506,000. In 2024 December, I did crack through the $1 million mark. So by setting myself up in 2022, I basically tripled my account in 2 years. That is the power of having confidence in the plays that you're making and really understanding how the stock market works. Now you're going to say, well, how do you incorporate real estate into this package right here? And so right now I have multiple rental properties, and my goal is to buy one rental property per year. And the reason why I want to buy one rental per year is, number one, I can make money on it. And, I like to buy when there's fear in the market. So like right now it's close to Christmas time. not many people are moving, not many people are buying. So that's usually when you can find better deals. I haven't found a deal yet this year, just to be honest with you. I'm still looking, but honestly, like, rates are still high, but for whatever reason, people are still wanting to buy right now. So my last real estate deal, the home that I live in right now where I'm recording this, I bought the house for $460,000, and now it's worth $600K. So on paper, I'm up $140,000, but it's not easy to find those deals. But you'd be surprised that if you walk through 5 or 10 houses per week, which is what I do every single week with my wife, you'll be able to spot opportunities where it's like, this house is the same as this house, it's in a better neighborhood, and it's $50K cheaper. We should probably buy that. But if you don't look at a bunch of houses, you don't know how to spot a deal. And that's how it works in the stock market. If you're not looking at a bunch of companies, reading a bunch of earnings reports, and educating yourself on what to even look for, you don't really know what to look for. So the deal is, every single year, I plan to move out of the house I'm living in right now. So I live in this house right now. When I buy another house, I'm gonna move out of this one, move into the new house, and then rent this house out right here. And then what I do is I do a thing called depreciation, where basically I could do an accelerated depreciation schedule called a cost segregation study, where I bring my depreciation forward. You know, right now when I realize a bunch of gains in the stock market, of course the market's been straight up, so I do have quite a bit of capital gains that I try to reduce as much as I can, but I could pull the depreciation forward on my real estate, carry that over to the stock market, and let's say I made 200K realized capital gains this year in the stock market. I mean, of course my account went up like $500,000, but a lot of that is unrealized. So if I realize maybe 200K, but on my real estate, I could pull 100K forward on depreciation. I then carry that over and it looks like I only made 100K in the stock market. And if you assume like a 35% tax rate, I'm now only taxed on 35% of 100K versus 35% of 200K. So that saves me roughly $35,000 in taxes by buying that house, on top of I probably got it for a deal and I'm probably gonna rent it out and it will probably cash flow. So just doing these simple things every single year, dollar cost averaging into the base of my portfolio, which I do the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. I do have some individual companies, but when I do buy individual companies or really anything in the base of my portfolio, I classify VOO, triple Q, and then 20% individual stocks as the base of my portfolio. I do plan to hold those stocks and ETFs pretty much forever. Now, the whole purpose of the options is just to take the premiums received or the profits, take that profit, and then go buy more shares in the base of the portfolio. So options are not the primary strategy. Options are just a way that I could accelerate my purchases of the base of my portfolio. And of course, options, I've been making a crap ton of money. Like this year alone, I've been averaging roughly $30,000 per month in option premiums received. So, you know, that's over $360,000. That's $360,000 that I could then go take and buy more shares in the base of my portfolio. So options are not the primary strategy. The primary strategy is to just get as many shares in the base of my portfolio as I can, but options are a huge needle mover to get you to that point. But so many people want to do the instant gratification thing of going straight to options, but they don't really know what they're doing. So definitely understand how the stock market works. Watch this video right here. It's going to be a breakdown of how I do stock options on a very, very, very basic level. But if you want to really take this to the next level and really understand it deeply, which I recommend you do, check out the link below for my course.